This podcast is sponsored by Skylight Calendar. Do you wish your family life could be a little more organized and a lot less hectic? Now there's an easy way to make it happen, the Skylight Calendar. The Skylight Calendar is an innovative, smart, all-in-one touchscreen calendar that automatically syncs up existing calendars your family uses. Everyone's upcoming events are automatically organized and displayed for the family to see in big, easy-to-read, color-coded time blocks. And with Skylight Calendar, you can assign household chores to your kids, keep grocery lists, plan dinners, and much more. And Skylight's mobile app keeps your family up to date on the go, anywhere, anytime. Managing a busy household just got a little bit easier with the Skylight Calendar. Now get $15 off your Skylight Calendar when you go to skylightcal.com/family. Go to skylightcal.com/family for $15 off. That's skylightccal.com/family.
Expanding reality.
Tanya Battiston, it is so nice to see you. It's finally grateful to get you on the show here. Here we are. We're hanging out. You're fascinating and amazing, of course. You're tied in here with the tribe. You have an incredible gift and an incredible skill set that just speaks to my heart directly. And I'm just so grateful to get to introduce you to my audience and to hang out with you for a little bit here. So to the first part first, if you don't mind, introduce yourself for the audience that may not be too familiar with you, darling.
Okay. Hi there. And Brandon, thank you for having me. I just enjoy your show so much and the content you bring to light. Really a beautiful thing. So I'm honored to be here. So I am a veterinarian who then started working with a Reiki with animals, which led to animal communication, which led to energy healing, which led to the human-animal connection. I do a lot of portal work. I do a lot of connecting people to their own light and helping guide them through it. And the animals have really brought to light the humans and, what I can do to reach them. And really, it's just a beautiful thing. So I'm newly recognized as someone who does all the other stuff professionally. I've been a veterinarian for 25 years, but this new journey has been the most exciting yet.
It's a new chapter, right? It's you've always been in the mode of healing, but now it's healing in an incredibly broad and beautiful way, even accentuating on what you felt limited by in the veterinary field or the medical field you were, introduced to in school, right?
Right, exactly. I was awake as a child, and pretty much once I turned that off around 12 years old because of some negative experiences, I was kind of caught in the matrix, just going through. I had to be someone, I had to fulfill all of these roles that my parents and society expected of me as a gifted student, and was eventually led down the path by an amazing, I would say, divine intervention to be a veterinarian, as my goal was always to work in the ocean as a marine biologist. Being from the ocean state in Rhode Island, my trajectory after during high school and afterwards was to go into marine biology. I love the ocean. I love the creatures within it. I would be in the ocean every moment, felt harmony in it. Just loved exploring, collecting creatures and observing them, and went into actually applied to marine biology programs exclusively out of high school. Spent my last year in high school as they allowed us to go into an area where we were interested in our profession. So I spent a year at the Environmental Protection Agency watching marine biologists. And I was like, this isn't marine biology. These are all like dead tissues. These are scientists in dark labs. Like, I need to be out with the living creatures. But I was like, that's still okay, because I'm going to go to this marine biology program. I ended up going to the University of Rhode Island because we are the ocean state, and they had a great program. And so I was, on the mark for that, got my schedule together on freshman orientation at the University of Rhode Island, was all geared up, and I'm in this line. This is before technology today, of course. So there was, a lot of manual entering of things. And I spent the first part of the day just putting in the different classes, getting them organized to go into the College of Marine Biology. So we all have to stand in this long line, right? And we are on campus. It's June. It's a hot day. And then one by one, we'd file in, and we would have the official registrar, what have you, enter these in, and that would be your schedule. So I'm in the line, and I was really shy at the time, and I didn't really know anyone around. So I was just kind of, looking around, and it was hot. And then I made eye contact with one of these faculty members that happened to be standing, keeping the line in order. And, he looked at me and he said, "Hi there, little lady." He said, "Anything I can help you with your schedule, or any questions that you have?" And then I've said this on another show, but I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I said, "Yes, I don't want to be a marine biologist. I want to be a veterinarian." And he's like, "I'm the head of the animal science department. Come with me." And he totally took me out of the line. I'm this shy person. It never came out of my mouth before that. Not a word of even going down that path. And this man, this angelic presence was like, "No, no, no. This is not your timeline. You need to work with animals." And because of that, he took me down into his office, head of veterinary program, and he just signed me up, and the rest of it just made sense, from there forward. My parents and everyone else was totally freaked out because my mom's like, "Do you know how much school that is? What about the ocean, marine biology? You went to the wrong college." Then I said, "No, Mom, it's perfect. It's perfect." And then dedicated my life from there forward, just learning everything I could so I could be of service to the animals. And it clicked. It was like, I hadn't thought about it before, but somehow my higher purpose was always to work with animals in that capacity, because with the animals that are domesticated, that are pets, that are beloved family members, comes the ability to also reach the human, the client. And that's essentially where the path led me. So now I not only work with animals in a beautiful way, but connecting with them, going through a spiritual awakening, connecting with them on a different level, I'm able to now reach the human through the animal, and recently been able to reach the humans without the animals being part of the equation.
This is so awesome. Of course. So of course, your divine timeline intervention there at 19. I mean, that's a huge redirect. And it seemed to be, yes, that this angelic presence was just like, all right, she'll be by any minute now. I'll know her when I see her. And there you go. And it's just this ping, and it's just this automatic thing. Outstanding. Now, I am curious about, you said switched off at 12, and we know that you get this indoctrination period. We get this time of magic while you're also being told there's no magic, while they're saying there is magic, but not really. It's an odd, confusing time, and it just seems to get more so later on. But in that time period, you seem to have a window where you are experiencing a ton of magic that you were aware of from your perspective. So I haven't heard anyone say that they deliberately switched off at a certain age. So I'm curious about not what happened to you, unless you prefer to share that, really what the magic was like before you hit 12. What were you experiencing in that way?
So when I was about 5.5, we moved into this, in Rhode Island, this giant historic farm estate. And it was from the 1840s, but really a lot of the things that we'd find on property dated back to Native American times, the, American Revolution, that sort of thing. So I was in this, area that was isolated, and it was like my fairy tale land. It became, my imagination was in full swing there because my parents would be busy working. They were both, working full time, and I would just explore. And I was like an archaeologist. I would dig up all of these things. And as I dug them up, whether it was an arrowhead or it was a pail or a horseshoe, when I touched the item, I was able to, whether it was purely imagination or not, but I felt the energy with the experience that went into that object. Complete with that was a graveyard that was essentially part of the farm property. And within that graveyard, there were people that were buried there dating back to the 1700s, all the way up to probably pre-World War I. A lot of Civil War type things in there. And when I would walk through, I was never scared. I, always gravitated towards certain, I guess, sites where one was a little boy named Charlie, and I would feel the energies around what went into their passing. And I could feel the energy of the parents mourning the child and the family that lost the soldier. And it was so profound that I found myself there quite often. And but nothing really happened in the cemetery other than that. But the house itself was alive. I mean, there were spirits everywhere. I mean, there were. And of course, as a child thinking, everyone's telling you it's not real, it's not real. But I was at that point clairaudient and clairvoyant. I could hear there were children that walked around my bed laughing every night. There were heavy steps going up and down the stairs. And I would repeatedly tell my parents that I was experiencing these things. And, they were just naysayers at the time. They didn't want to frighten me, although they did hear some things themselves later on. And I would just kind of live with it. I was a little fearful of it, but to me, it just like the property was alive. It was like all of these streams of consciousness were just like time wasn't linear. Like I could go in and out of different timelines there and immerse myself within the feeling of, say, the horseshoe that was there, or, between the graveyard, the old barn that still smelled of horses and cattle and still had a hayloft with some hay in it. And then all of the land, it was just like a natural paradise. It was for me just, I don't know what I would have done without that experience. So most of the experiences I had were benevolent. But when I was 12, so there was one time before I was 12 where I was on a tire swing in my yard. And as I went up on the tire swing, there was this very dark figure that was probably 10 feet tall that was walking above like the hedge line coming towards me. And then I went down on the tire swing and came back up and it was gone. But it was such a powerful visualization. I was like, whoa, this isn't all fairy tale land. This isn't all like positive imagination. And then I was a latchkey child. Then came the day that I came home from school. It was fourth grade, I believe. Came home from school and my house there was a central staircase and then there were all these rooms that kind of circled around it. And one door opened to the next room and so on and so forth. So I'm sitting there watching television by myself and all of a sudden the house started. It's like something transformed. It almost came alive and it had this energy that was very scary. That's all I can say. It was terrifying. And both of the doors in the room slammed shut at the same time. And I was trapped inside. I screaming out of the house, was able to get the doors open and left and sat in the driveway. And I remember just panicking, waiting for my mother and to come home, and I wouldn't go back in the house. And, that's the time where I said, I don't want to see or I don't want to see or feel or hear anything again. And it was pretty much a profound, at that point forward, I don't remember ever experiencing anything that I can really put my fingers on until my awakening in 2021. I've always been connected. I mean, animals, let's face it, they are so easy to connect with. When you have these beautiful, their heart portals are wide open, they have this divine connection, like how I just figured everyone kind of felt around animals like I did, like could feel what they were not just thinking, but just knew more by touching them or being around them, which really helped me as a veterinarian be a very successful diagnostician and all of that prior to my awakening. But after I had the awakening, I had cleared out so much that my light body was activated. And in there, so I could connect with animals on a different level, heart portal to heart portal, light body to light body. And they were ready for it. And not every animal is open. Every being has free will. But for the most part, once I found that connection and cleared away my separateness and my ego, I was able to see them as part of me and everything else that is, and they're beautiful, like the beautiful song that they had to share with the world and what their purpose was in the lives of so many of these humans. And it has been such an amazing gift. And in that, it is difficult because I do work as a clinician, a Western medicine veterinarian. I now do alternative therapies, and I have a business where I can reach people and animals, from that alternative vantage point. But sometimes I just, I do incorporate it into everything that I do. I may just not say it to the owner, but I do. I have plenty of times where the animal will defer or look to me, and I immediately change my gaze over to the human, and I'm like, you brought them here, and there comes a conversation. I'm also an oracle of truth and light codes, so I do get information for people. And so I've been in this situation where I'm there as a professional. I'm there to see the animal. The animal is energetically communicating with me. Some of the animals are actually coming in with illness that is derived from siphoning it off of the human. So there's this whole interplay of I'm siphoning, my human needs help, and I'm going to hold on to the sickness, the density, whatever it is, until they can find their own light, right? And most animals can do this for a very long time, but inevitably they can become sick from it as well. If the human doesn't give them a break and a time to recharge, like some people that are caught in their stories and anxiety, depression, trauma. And I see so much of that. And they know the animal is giving them comfort, but they don't understand the capacity to which they are receiving love and healing just by having them in their presence through these energetic cords. So I see the cord from me to the animal, then the cord from the animal to the human, and then I can connect to the human. And so I do recognize when people are there to actually see me. They don't know they're there to see me. And I will often engage with, one question that I'm very personable. So I usually know a lot about people, but I'll just ask a question about something, and it'll be maybe a trigger point to where, as an empath, but also as a veterinarian, people are very open with speaking with me. So that is a beautiful thing. But now that I have these little tools to hand over maybe some light code subtly, or just, give them a piece of love or some sort of light code, then I feel like my job is done, and or at least partially. And the awareness that's brought in, it doesn't really they don't connect to it right away, but I know that maybe sometime in the future it will. So I've been encouraged by my mentors to be the oracle when I feel something strongly that I must say. And the animal is cheering me on. And I will go ahead and, in some way that's very, subtle, or sometimes direct, sometimes it's screaming in my head, I will deliver that. And it's always to help the person. It's always to bring awareness. It's always to, be something as a gesture of light and love. And with an open heart and a quiet mind, it's amazing how much you can sense and feel in any living being.
We get excuse me. We get a lot of touching perspectives on this show, but oh my God, that's outstandingly remarkable. The way that you've connected. Yes. I mean, we know that animals are healing tools for us, but I never, ever, ever would have thought that we're putting our shit on them like parents do to their kids or something like that. That's heavy. And the fact that they're here to take that is beautiful and makes folks like me and you all the more reverent for these creatures. But also it's fascinating that you're able to see that your job is to heal that human thinks it's there to bring you to heal its animal that is sick from the sickness that the human is giving the animal. And you're able to detect that the animal is actually taking that on and relaying to you what's really going on. So in a way, you're now healing everything all together. Like, it's so much deeper. But I noticed this with our vet. We have a phenomenal vet. I'm sure you're incredible. If you were closer, we'd talk. But she has this ability just to give you so much confidence in her wisdom and knowledge that you're like, yeah, whatever she's doing is going to help the animal. And then that absolutely automatically takes it. But where you're able to then look at that person and say, hey, what is that conversation? If you have an example, I'm just really curious. And, no names or anything. You can trade the dog out for a cat, whatever you want. But I'm curious what an animal conveyed to you that you were able to convey to a human, that where there was a connection made and healing done in a complete circle roundabout way, if you have an example.
Oh gosh, of course they do. There's so many. Well, my initial connection, how it all happened, and then I'll give you an example. When I went through a traumatic medical condition that threatened my ability to use my hands back in 2021, that led to a dark night of the soul, that led to my awakening and shedding density and losing the ego and all of that stuff, and realizing that I was more than my hands when I defined my worthiness in this world by everything I could touch and feel and just, create, because I'm a painter, I'm an artist, I'm a gardener, I'm a surgeon. And it was like the universe knew the only way to slow me down was to take away the things that that I required to do all the things I was busy doing. And, I was approaching pretty severe burnout, because you do get, it's not compassion fatigue, but I was self-sourcing. So I was using my energy as a heart-centered, like, unworthy archetype, giving my energy to heal. And in so I was depleting my own stores. So during the time that I was recovering from the hand, both hands, 5 different surgeries in 3 months, both hands being, not able to carry out the tasks, I had rescued this rabbit. Her name was Benita. And she was 10 and she had cancer, really serious cancer. And so it just so happened that while I was home, I was tending to her. She had about 5 months to live. I was not her initial veterinarian through the rescue, but I became hers by default. 2 other surgeons tried to close this, tumor area, and they were unable to. So they were like, Tanya, I'm going to give you a shot. And I am automatically connected with her, and I was able to successfully close, this surgical area. And then 2 months later, she came up for, the rescue wanted her to live out her final weeks and days in a loving home. And of course, what's one more rabbit? So I said yes. That rabbit, I took up Reiki when I realized I was more than my hands, that I could heal through energy without my physical body. And that this rabbit would seek me out and connect with me. And she would have periods that, one day I remember she fainted on the ground, and I was like, oh, this is the end. And my kids, I said, say goodbye to Benita, everyone. And so they were eating dinner, and I was just crying on the floor, and I went over and I touched her, and I immediately felt this jolt of energy. And I was like, and I was just learning Reiki at the time, but I put all of my love and intention through my hands, out from my heart, into my hands and into her. And I just sat there with her. And there was a time where I couldn't even take my hands off her. It was so powerful. And so when I did remove my hands, because it was time to serve the meal, I said, I'm going to take her to euthanize her after. And then my son Blake said, Mom, look at Benita. And I turned around, and she's up and she's eating at her little bowl, and she's happy as could be. And I was like, what the? Wow. And so then she would come to me. She would seem to have days that weren't as good. And yet she would come over to me and push her head into my body. And she would sit there, and I could feel. She taught me, and then I was able to communicate with her. So she was the first animal I was able to communicate with in that fashion. And it was her. She actually ended up living 2.5 years, more than 5 months. And she had Reiki every day. But she was a powerful lesson to me. It was like, we're going to give you this beautiful soul, and their dharma is to come and help you learn your gifts, all the while helping this beautiful creature live longer than perhaps they would have without alternative, without love. And she was a gift. So from there, everything else just followed suit, because I was off for 6 months, recovering with my hands. And so all the time I had Bonita and my other rabbits, which, just to mention, rabbits are actually the easiest species to communicate with for me. And the reason being, I mean, animals don't have ego, right? But they are such gentle, heart-centered, like heart activators, because they're soft and they're gentle and you can hold them, and they have such beautiful, they live on the earth, they graze off the grass, they don't have any expectations, they're prey animals, not predators. So there's just this natural beauty about them. And so they very quickly can offer themselves for conversation, for energetic exchange, they're really here they blanket the earth, right? I mean, what other species is on every continent? And, they blanket the earth, and they're like little portal activators. They're little light beings to me. At least that's how I see them. And that's why I rescue so many. So with all of my rabbits and my dogs, for sure. But, not every dog soul is here on a mission, but most of them are. So of my 3 dogs, 2 of them I can actively feel and have an energetic exchange with. And then I have one who's like Loki. He's like mischievous and just like sometimes not even there. He's just like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And like there isn't any depth, but he's there for smiles, And so anything that I might connect with him wouldn't be anything more than kind of just like smile, 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 ball, 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 feed me, treat, treat. And there are dogs that are here for that, but the ones that are, and cats too, the ones that are here to help a human are on a mission to do so. And those I can meet at a certain level. Usually I need to be in person for that, where I can connect with them through the eyes. It's like this moment of recognition where they're panicked and they're looking around, and that I can just like lock a gaze with them. And in some animals that would be considered a challenge, but not the way that I can connect with them. And really anyone can. We all have this light. It's like seeing them for the beauty that they are. And I look through, and through there, it's like they recognize me as just love and, and trust. And for those animals, I'm able to reach in a deeper place. And that really is the reason, well, I'm on this path, I think. I mean, just being able to unlock that, and then to share with other people how they can gain the same access. So I do, I've done some workshops on animal connection, because everyone, and in so doing, they can not only connect with their animal to understand like what might be I'll give you an example. So I had this dog that had tremendous OCD, had gone to was just licking this paw, and I hadn't seen it originally, but had gone to behaviorists and gone to all of these things, and they've tried medications, they've tried therapy, distraction techniques, behavioral therapy, and the dog was still licking itself crazy. And I ran into the owner on vacation, and it was just like, oh, hi, how are you? And she's like, you know what, my dog still is like licking. We've tried everything, Tanya. Do you have anything? Do you think the energy work you do would help? And I said, well, it certainly seems like you've done everything else. You've done your due diligence. I'd be happy to work with, your dog when we get back. And so she set up a Reiki session for me which is more than Reiki. Again, there's communication, connection. Of course, there's life force energy and all the beautiful things in that. But in this particular dog, the dog showed me a person in the household that was suffering heavily from OCD, and the dog was taking it from the human. And I just had to sit there and say to the dog, telepathically is how I generally communicate, that you are only supposed to be a source of love in the house. You becoming sick, trying to take this from another human is not what you're here for. Like, you need to just continue to thrive. If you're burdened down with all of these kind of human burdens, if you're burdened with that, then you won't be able to be here for your full, duty as a source of love and comfort and compassion. And so when I asked the owner, I said, really, I think I understand why it's not working. I said, do you have someone in the house that has severe OCD? And she said, yes. She said it was one of her children. And that particular person has suffered with it she was 18 at the time, I think, a great amount of it. And she said, you know what? When this person's home, the dog is worse. And I said, well, let's work on, do your work with your daughter. But what you need to do is to tell this particular dog that, like, this isn't your burden to carry. Like, it just isn't. And so I just kind of cleared out the chakras and did what I could to realign the energy. Universal life force goes where it's needed. So I don't need to direct it. I can feel where it's needed. And this animal willingly took it on and was definitely better after that. And so I think that is a perfect example of certain things that can happen. Now, are there types of anxiety, of depression, of trauma, of anger, of hate, of jealousy that an animal can take on because it's a negative or low vibrational emotion? Yes. And that can come in the form of, it can block up lots of different chakra areas, but often it can lead to unthrift, sometimes cancer, sometimes, pretty debilitating conditions, and the dog or cat, they signed up for it. They willingly are taking this. It's not like begrudgingly, willingly, and they would continue and sacrifice themselves to do so because for whatever reason, they're mending hearts and they're selfless. So it's not like the human is intentionally doing this. But the animal is most often intentionally out of love trying to heal in a way that, they're connected through this cord of love. Like once you have you're in love or have love with another being and you're connecting in the heart, then anything can pass from one direction to the other. So I also teach people how to break the cords for the sake of the animal and how to work on themselves and what these vibrational frequencies of emotions are kind of, that they're not only not good for them, but that there is a definite correlation with the animal. And that's a tough one to enter into in a lot of situations. So sometimes I have to just let it be, it's not the moment. And again, that's why I've really wanted to, and one might say that I've sacrificed my my reputation as a veterinarian by coming out as someone who does all this crazy shit, right? But I don't think so. I think that the reason that I gained such professional respect and acumen and was that, so as a source who is someone who must know shit, because I'm a doctor, right? People would say, yeah, she must know shit. And someone who has successfully treated animals and been a veterinarian, that I can then say, hey, this, and it may come from a point where maybe they'll listen to me because I know shit. And so maybe what I have to say has some merit, right? And so I was like, that's what it took. All of these years for me to work as a professional, to then go through the awakening, to lose the ego, to find myself, to ignite my light body, to then go back into the workplace, have this transformation that was, not everybody was ready for the me that came back after the hand stuff. It was a wild ride. I'm talking staff, you name it, like other doctors. It was, but I just was like, this is me. I see things. Once you can't unsee when the veil drops and the illusion is gone, you cannot unsee that. So my reference point now is to whether it's a human, whether it's a client, whether whoever it is, that I'm going to be there. I open my heart portal every day and I know I'm protected. I open it every day, and my wish for each day is that let me manifest people and animals that need my light, that need to just see their own light through my loving eyes, through the animals' loving eyes. And in there will be maybe an activation for them, but bring them to me so that I can give them some sort of clarity or some sort of just key that will help them unlock something within themselves. And that happens now, the light, the more density that you shed, the more your light body's activated, and the more you can just connect. Like on the horizontal plane, toroidally, you can connect with just everything. And so, it's a wild ride. But now everyone kind of just knows that, that you can get the really technical version of me that, can recite lots of things and know lots of things, or you can get the side of me that, might be able to have some kind of a truth code for you, or may have some understanding. And I think holding a presence with a quiet mind and an open heart, when you hold that, other people that are just drowning, they can come up for air around you and feel safe. And, that's really what my job is here, like as a light worker, is to just be a safe place where someone who feels misunderstood, unheard, traumatized, whatever it is, that I'm just like, I'm looking at you with love, because you've got to, it's a soul thing. Like my soul to yours, we're like one. So I love everybody as a soul. People might drive me crazy, but I have compassion for those that are maybe the ones that, probably in someone's eyes may not deserve that level of compassion, but I find that's the only way to approach things. And, one heart at a time, if I can heal them, it's more than the animals. They showed me the way. And now it's my turn to take their lesson and apply it.
Just not enough positive things to say here. You're the embodiment of what we're talking about here. We have so many folks that we talk to with doctorates and who have been through the education system and who have done all of those things. And then now we speak in terms that if they were back in college, they would not have finished their college degree or they would have been kicked out or something like that. And so to see you go within a disciplinarian and then come out with some extraordinary experiences that actually help you do what you're here to do better, not to do your job better, which it trickles down to that, but to embrace your calling and to do that with zero boundaries or apprehension about being an authentic part of yourself. That's beautiful. And even more so too, let's say that you offer some of these alternative medicines. My folks are not cannabis people, but they offered their dog CBD because the vet said that it'd probably help. Same thing with some of these alternative things. Like let's say a traditional home may not be into some of this Reiki stuff, but if you say, hey, actually, this will fix your dog without me needing to go and do these invasive surgeries, you can sort of get them on it's not going to cost as much. Cool. It's the budget plan. But then you have an opportunity to show people the true scope of what healing really means. And it starts with you, and you know this, you embody it, you take it on every day. It's just so remarkable to be here with you, to hear what you're out here doing. And then also I want to compliment you on that. You have a superpower of mine, or I'd like to actually come back to your experience as a child and talk about your superpower real quick. So your experience as a young girl, just before we move on to anything else here, it seems like you did have a remarkably open channel and that you had some opportunities to experience some incredible things. But it seems also that the further we get into programming, the more, your parents were the whole time, the people who are you're around, your ego structures, all of these things you identify with as safe are telling you that the things that you're experiencing should be scaring you or were non-existent at all. So therefore they were scary to you because they weren't acknowledged by your structure, by your family. And then it's interesting that something amazing happened to where it ramped up in intensity, and maybe not to do so to scare you off, but it did scare you off. And so what's fascinating again about this is it seems like it levels up in intensity to where you're now able to perceive more. At the same time, you're being told that you shouldn't or told that it's not real. So this bifurcation within your psychology, and then of course the experience of the world around you. But then also with that experience, it seems that it's still in there, your powers, let's say, because that's absolutely what this is. I'm hearing is just straight up abilities, and I'll come back to psychometry in a minute. But it seems like those have been there, but you found a way to alchemize them and to let the energies greet you in a way where it's controlled by you rather than external and received in a way that's scary or that can be perceived in a way that's comfortable for you to move on. And that's why it stopped, because you asked it to. And this is the other thing about this. It'll keep inviting and keep ramping up and keep, oh, dude, she's super receptive to this. They don't necessarily maybe are speaking to you in a correct language if it's a guidance of sort. But this is what's interesting. Have you ever read the Seth material by Jane Roberts, like Seth Speaks or any of that?
No.
Okay. I'm going through Seth Speaks now. And one of the things he talks about in there is as a spirit, as a being, as a personality, as an entity, his job, if you want, one of the jobs offered in afterlife or in another realm is to guide us, right? So you're like your higher guide. And so what's interesting again about this is it could be just a guide that's doing its best, like, oh, she's really into it, and then sort of blows it, you know what I mean? It gives you too much. And so that's almost like a part on the guide as well to say, damn, you know, we had this thing. But again, I don't necessarily believe in faux pas here. It seems like it happened that way as a lesson for the guide. Maybe I'm reading way into this, but as a guide that was teaching you, but you know, maybe went a little too far, but then also it was perfect timing for you to dip in, which all of it's planned at some higher level, even beyond the guide and yourself, which is, again, I mean, just so interesting when you start layering all this stuff together. Do you find, and so let me compliment on your psychometry. So do you know what psychometry is? That's what it's called, what you were doing when you can pick up an object and know its history and know all the story behind it. That is one of two superpowers, young lady, that I in this life would love to have. You're a teleporter away from being like the ultimate superhero in my mind, but you also have all the animal stuff ticked off. So you're actually excelling in that better. So psychometry is, again, one of my favorite things. Do you feel like you've completely lost that altogether, or that you mentally just detach from it and that it maybe comes in every now and then without you mindfully doing so?
I think it's still there. Well, I also do a lot of work with crystals, and they're powerful, and animals are very responsive to crystals as well. So as part of a healing modality, I use them, but I was just at the ocean, and certain rocks and crystals and minerals will call to me, and I will pick them up and have a certain feeling, just like every crystal has a different vibration. Like for me, crystals are alive. They're, what they are sending out, what the vibration that they carry makes a different feeling, or has a different, it has a different feeling for me, each one. So I have this little like rock identifier app, but I don't necessarily need it. I can pick something up and I'm like, this feels like jade, or this feels like jasper. And even in its roughened form, sea tumble and all of that, I can just like feel the activation. So I probably, and I talk to plants. I'm big into plant consciousness as well. So I do think it's still there. I don't know if I could go. I've loved history. I remember being on the beaches of Normandy in my trip there, and there the sand was alive. That I think anyone could go there and feel the power within all of that area and the history and everything that happened there. So I think we all have a little ability to do that. We have a certain feeling. We can go somewhere and it evokes an emotional response or physical response. You walk into a house, either the energy is good, the energy is bad, So I think it's all about energy and feeling into it. But the kind of creativity that I had as a child, as an innocent, yet at that point programmed or, psyoped on everything. I feel like if I could go back to the innocence of my childhood before I learned who I was supposed to be and all of this other stuff in this, in this third dimension, then I probably would have that raw ability a lot better. So I'm seeking to get back to that. But I do think everything has a feeling. And as someone who's I'm pretty much clear. I'm claircognizant and I'm clairsentient. I don't see and I don't hear. Those are the two things I turned off, and as of yet, they've not turned back on. But my feeling and knowing come together in a powerful combination. So, I've talked to Amy Belair and I'm like, this clairvoyant thing, I just want to see things. And she's like, just keep working on it, Tanya. I have seen bad things, but I don't see beautiful. I mean, I see beautiful things, but, I had a starseed that I raised traumatically. And he would be attacked by entities. And I had to learn how to remove them, recognize them, and clear them. And so I would say that anything that I have seen has been more of the mama bear coming in. That's, part of the dragon in me is like alchemizing things, transmuting things that aren't positive or of the light that I think are a threat. In this case, was to my son. And as far as light, I mean, I see light and love and everything, but no, I don't see ghosts. I've seen the dark stuff only because because I was supposed to do something about it. And I was in high connection with my son who was under attack repeatedly. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or if I went on a tangent. I'm known to talk a lot. So
no, you're perfect. It's great because everything you're talking about, I'm just like, yeah, I hope she keeps going. And then you do. And so thank you. I am curious, and you did answer the question. I am curious about have you found an energy system or a chakra system within the animals themselves? Like lizards have different chakras from dogs?
So this is a very interesting question because, I work with mammals and they're all heart-centered, all heart-centered, although their chakra system can be bogged up with things from the human or collective consciousness that are out there. They're not always protected against, because they keep their heart portal open, protected against collective consciousness, emotional states, trauma, all the stuff that's out there. That it doesn't always have to come directly from their human. It can come from the environment and the stress within it. But so yesterday, and I don't usually go on Facebook, Instagram, they can have these like neighborhood pages, right? Where people say, oh, I'm looking for in search of like someone to fix my roof or what have you. So I happened upon it yesterday. There was a picture of a turtle that had its shell crushed. And underneath was a man who explained that he was going to assist this turtle he saw on the road over to a safe place. And when he went to see the turtle, he realized that the shell was broken. It had been run over, but it was still alive. And so he was just asking for help. Like, what do I do? Some people were like, go to all these rehabbers. Of course, it was Sunday. Nobody was open. And I'm watching these things go down and they're like, someone told me to just crush the head. They're hard to kill, whatever, like just put it out of its misery. And so I just like, before I even think about it, I was like, I'll euthanize the turtle. I don't want it to suffer. You don't have to go to any of these other lengths that seem barbaric. And certainly, yes, you're putting the animal out of its misery, but at the same time, there's humane ways to do that. So I don't see reptiles, right? So here I am. Then I start looking into chelonians and how difficult they actually are to euthanize because they can be without oxygen for like 27 hours. Their mind can still be alive long after the heart has stopped. Their metabolic rate, because they're poikilothermic, meaning they're like as the temperature of them with reptiles is what it is in the environment. So that's why they always have to stay warm. And so if they've been traumatized, they go into shock, their metabolic rate decreases, all of this. So I'm thinking of all this before I get the turtle. And then I meet him at the hospital and he's like, can I come in? I'm like, I mean, you're a nice guy, but I really probably shouldn't take you in the hospital. We just met. So I take the turtle in and I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I, called in my guides, my higher self. And I was just like, Source, just help me help this turtle. So I put my hands on the turtle. And not only was it a reptile, but it was a wild animal. And I think we had a question. We talked a little bit about consciousness of wild animals versus domestic animals. And my understanding in touching this turtle, I immediately felt a connection. And I was like, I didn't realize that reptiles really had the same kind of connection, although, we are all connected. So I'm touching the turtle and it was horrific. I mean, the shell was broken. It's, turtle shells are basically their skin. You break the shell, there's the whole internal system. So I'm looking at intestines. The rear legs are paralyzed. The back is broken. The front, it's moving its head around. It's got its little, arms going like this. And I just can immediately feel that this animal is in panic, in pain, in distress, but it's trying desperately to stay alive. And so I just touched it and I said, with everything within me, I've never connected with a turtle, but feel the grace and the peace of my intention of love and comfort until I figure out how I'm going to get a vein and all of that. And so I just in that stillness connected with the turtle. And I was like, what a beautiful soul. So I find a way. I actually am able to get a vein in the turtle. I mean, because they also have scales. Get a vein, and I give it a very serious, high-end kind of opioid, and so it can just be comfortable so that I can then humanely euthanize it. So when I do that, the turtle relaxes and, just sitting there. And I just had a moment with the turtle and I was like, this is a beautiful connection. It's not like the mammal connection, but it's a different one. It's a wild animal. It's a reptile. But I could feel it and it was just beautiful. And so when I gave the animal Reiki and then I euthanized it and ensured it was deceased and took it home and buried it. But on my way home, it was raining, pouring. I pull out of the animal hospital. I turn onto my street and this beautiful red cardinal just comes and kind of hovers right in front of my car and passes on. And I knew it was the soul of that turtle thanking me. Yeah. Those are the kind of signs if we look for it, they're everywhere. But I knew on this rainy, gloomy day, this bright red cardinal, and it was torrential, came and just kind of lingered in front of my car and then flew off. And I was like, oh my gosh, that beautiful soul is free, So yeah, I think we're all heart-centered, at least we're supposed to be. And, we get too much in our heads and our minds and get caught up in all of the things that make us separate from each other. But I connected with that turtle as beautifully as in the moments before its death and in a state of pain and suffering as I would with any other creature. And it accepted my help. Free will is still there. They don't have to connect with you. Animals don't, and some don't. But this one did in a beautiful, loving way. And I was I just came home smiling that what a beautiful soul and what a tragedy. And thank goodness I was able to offer it a humane way to pass. But yeah, it touched me. So it just so happens that experience happened yesterday. And no, I'm not going to start seeing chelonians and turtles and all of that. But, I will be there if one is in need for sure.
That's incredible. What an amazing story. And yeah, it's just even to the guy picking it up. We love those kind of things. Like the people just stopping on the side of the road, picking turtles up. We love that kind of stuff. It just shows the heart and the reverence, And yeah, there's turds in every delineation. And we even say this, jokingly, we have a shirt and all that about lizard turds, right? And these
right.
Reptilians that are running the place, but we don't consider all reptilians turds, right? I feel that there's still balances and energies and all of those things. And just, it seems like the turd reptilians have a large representational presence here is what it would feel like, right? At some level. I've got a banger idea for you and your business, but I'm going to tell you off air. But also I wanted to come back just real quick to the chakra system. So have you identified chakras in, let's say, dogs and cats? Let's just stick with those two, because I'm just curious about what your read is on the energy body of them. And if they are, do they have the same portals, or do they have a root, a sacral, a crown, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, they have all of the same chakras, but they're not in the linear, Sushumna line, the Kundalini line that we have. They're in different places because they're also, not bipedal. So most of them are on all fours. So it does change it. I actually have this beautiful diagram in my office of the chakras and where they're located on all the different species.
That's awesome.
And yeah, they're not always where you think they're going to be. But I have found that it was something I purchased when I was learning Reiki, and that it pretty much matches up with where I see the chakra systems. And it even goes to fish. And I haven't done that, although maybe that's what I was doing in the ocean all those years. I don't know.
I'm thinking
Nothing ever attacked me. I never, yeah. So, but they are different in every species. And I pretty much deal with dogs and cats and rabbits, and other small mammals. So theirs are similar. Rabbits are, they're not along the line that you would expect. Like their third eye and their crown are like together, and like the heart, their solar plexus is like up a little further, and their heart. So they are in different locations in different animals. But I'm not someone who has worked a lot with horses, but I just can only imagine the energy of working with the horse as one of the most powerful beings, on this planet. But yeah, they are located in, they all have the same chakras. I think fish are missing a couple on my diagram, but just the same. Yeah. I mean, you can tap into their energy centers. They have them. The meridians off of them are in different locations. That's why human acupuncturists would have to, do something different to figure out animal acupuncture. And I do recommend animals to see alternative therapy too, in addition, and acupuncture is one of them. So veterinary acupuncturists, you need to know where the chakras are and where the meridian points are, because they are different.
Wow. It's a whole thing. Do you feel it's, actually, I'm not even going to answer that question, because that's the dumb question. I'm just going to pull it right from my face and just tell you how dumb it was before I even let it out of my face. But
questions are dumb, Brandon.
Do you feel that it's all poppycock, like it's all bullshit? I mean, because again, this is a dumb question because you're very healed into it, but do you feel that people who are out there doing acupuncture and things like that are doing it under the guise of bullshit, that there are some charlatans in that area?
Oh, there's definitely. I mean, there's false light deception everywhere. Just like not everybody who's performing Reiki is doing it out of a good space. Not everybody who's doing tarot, because can you channel the darkness as easily as the light? Yes. Can the darkness come in as a false light? Yes. And so discernment is extremely important. And, you just have to feel things out. Like, don't even trust reviews, things like that. I say you got to meet the person and just get a feel. I mean, we all have intuition, just use it. If we used it more, we'd be led down. But so many people are scrambling and desperate, like they're newly awakened or there's something and they know, and they're just desperate to get a reading or get, a Reiki treatment or something like that. And so maybe the discernment goes out the door. But there's definitely some charlatans, and I don't know of any directly in the veterinary field here around me. I think most are pretty reputable. But I mean, it seems like you can get Reiki almost anywhere now or what have you. So the people that I've gone to are authentic. But yeah, they're just like there's fortune tellers, and that sort of thing. Some of it is a psyop. Some of it is they aren't authentic. Some of it is false light deception, corrupted light. But for the most part, I'd like to, think that you can recognize that easily if you just open up your own internal sensor.
Outstanding answer. And you're absolutely right. And it's still all valuable in my mind. Like even charlatans, which is another reason I just felt it yanked from the record here, but that even charlatans play their role in your awakening and in sharpening your discernment. Because if you're just everything's correct and true the whole time, how are you going to know that some shit isn't, or some shit isn't in alignment with you? You need to be bamboozled a little bit here.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's part of the show, and that's okay. Have you spent much time around dolphins?
Oh my gosh, no, but dolphin consciousness.
That's what I'm saying.
Whales.
Connected with the rabbits, but I'm going to think once you get around dolphins, it's going to be some next level shit for you, especially with your tie to the ocean. You're absolutely part mermaid and Atlantean for sure. And then, you get into the ocean. I bet you'd just be riding dolphins around. You know what I mean? I bet that's what it would be. They would just carry you off to their.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just to, I think their consciousness is Syrian, but whales and dolphins have this amazing, beautiful consciousness, and I would love to work with them. I did work with some marine life when I was doing an ophthalmology rotation who worked, do you know seals get cataracts a lot?
No. A lot? If you go in for regular eye checkups? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, meaning the ones at the aquarium here, we took it, I think it was 5 out of 12 of them had cataract surgery.
I pictured the little glasses for him. That's adorable.
Yeah, I know, right?
Little waterproof.
But I would love to work with dolphins. They're just, oh, I mean, just everything about them, their intelligence, their beauty, just the fluid. I've been on a boat and had like a pod of dolphins go by, and it's just this like rhythmic, beautiful, perfect, just them coming out of the water, rising and falling. It's like, yeah, magic. Yeah, I that might be next, Brandon.
I'm thinking
Thank you for the suggestion.
Dude, it's in there. I'm shocked that you haven't yet. And that's what's so wild about this. When you talk about your connections and then knowing the depth of what we've heard about dolphins and their intelligence and their connection and all of these things, I bet you, like I said, you'd just be carried off to their kingdom and be just there now.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be a little mermaid and hanging out with the dolphins.
Yeah.
But when I go in the ocean, because there's all these. Some of it, let's just talk about the fear narrative. Like, how many shark attack videos do you need to watch? Like, I'm up here in the ocean where we're near Cape Cod. Like, there's a lot of sharks out there. But I have a respect for the ocean, not a fear. But when I go and swim way out and deep, even drives my mother crazy, I feel like I put this like love vibration into the water, and that the harmony that I receive back, I just know I'm not going to be harmed. Maybe that's silly, but there is a consciousness to the water as well, and all the creatures within it, and I can really feel into that consciousness. And so I don't mind going out and just feeling, the raw elements and the beauty of the creatures, the animals. Yeah, I'll see big things swimming by, but I've never been harmed with all the years I've spent deep out into the ocean in areas where we know the sharks are. I just don't think about it, so I don't manifest it. I manifest safety and beauty and harmony, and that's essentially so far what I've experienced in the oceans.
I'm terrified by it, to be honest with you. So what's that about? Why does deep water scare the shit out of me?
It's mysterious. I mean, the ocean itself, a riptide just carried my son out in Nantucket last week, and a lifeguard had to be called. I mean, the ocean's no joke. Yeah. But when you have peaceful, calm waters, I think it's the mystery and the fact that, we walk on land, we don't swim in the ocean. Anything there that's coming after us is going to be a lot faster than anything we can do to get away. But I think there's been a lot of fear instilled. It's part of it. We're getting all of these, fear signals to keep us small. And there is so many, I just read yesterday, I opened my phone and it says, person in Mexico decapitated by great white tiger shark did this. Hammerhead shark. Yes. Hammerhead shark following woman on paddleboard. These things, and so I think there's a lot of that just, and if you don't know better, you think you're going out there and you're a target.
Well, it seems like it's ramped up. Do you see it, or has it just been reported more to make it seem like it's ramped up? These killer whales attacking sailboats and stuff like that, or hitting sailboats and knocking people off of stuff. Like before, we knew that surfers knew this, that they kind of look like a seal from underneath when you're on the board and you're paddling with the profile. But even a sailboat, that's been in the waters for a very long time. Killer whales are very used to this, but sharks are getting much more aggressive, it seems, and as well whales are getting more aggressive, like get the hell out of our water kind of a thing, and it seems to be ramped up. But I'm just asking, what do you think?
So the way this is interesting, I was reading a Syrian transmission yesterday about killer whale consciousness, and essentially it was this person who channeled this information, but it just resonated with me. It's like, you will see, we are killing Earth. We are poisoning the waters, where the plastics are in there. Like, the animals with higher consciousness, they're fighting back. Like, they know that we're the perpetrators here. They know that we're corrupting their waters and their earth. And they're like, these whales have been, and they're very much like galactic, connections and that sort of thing. They're pissed off. Like, we're killing them. We're hunting them. We're overfishing. We're putting so much plastic and waste into the ocean that just shouldn't be there. But it's this whole thing on how we could help without the animals having to, and it's not, someone said, oh, well, maybe it was a whale that was like, a boat hit it or they were upset. No, these beings, these consciousness is so elevated that their perception could be that they recognize the humans at this point, like, get out of the water and stop putting shit in it. Like, we'll share it with you, but if you keep corrupting it, then we're not going to just sit quiet. but yeah, they're coming out of the waters, and attacking all of these different boats. It's like, just get the message. As far as the sharks, I mean, with the water's getting warmer, the overfishing, like I don't know. I'm not a marine biologist now, but maybe I should go back to that to figure all this stuff out. But yeah, it is interesting. Things are definitely changing.
Well, it's just really interesting when you hear about these swarms of birds, let's say, just fall from the sky, or like fish raining from the sky, like all these weird things that occur, and it has to do with the animal kingdom, and it really takes us aback. It's really like, holy shit, what's going on? So what do you think are with all of those, like the mass, just like the birds that just fall out of the sky, all dead at once? What do you think that's from?
I have no idea, Brandon. I wish I did. I think is it time of the 7 plagues again? Like, I don't know, but there is a lot of, it seems like the firmament is getting thinner. I like, things are just happening at a level, like as Earth is upgrading and the frequency and vibration and dimensions are, everything's elevating, like shit's just happening. It's almost like there's no room for bullshit or, a lot of this stuff that's unnecessary. We have to be made aware. And whatever that situation is, I haven't heard of the birds falling from the sky, but certainly it sounds biblical, if anything.
Also, videos, yeah. It's wild because it's like hundreds of birds at once just drop.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a scientific explanation. I certainly don't have an energetic one. But yeah, I mean, just a lot changing right now. And we all know, I mean, look at these solar flares hitting the Earth. Like, I think there was 2 M class 2 days ago. Yesterday was an X class flare. The Schumann resonance was off the charts. Like, a lot of things are changing, and whatever cannot hold itself within a higher frequency may not be able to continue on. And, so I think we're going to be seeing a lot of things like, aliens visiting Earth in a more regular capacity, or maybe, I think it's time. Something's got to change, right?
Yeah, it is changing, and constantly. And if they scoop, we'll make the agreement right now. If they scoop me up first, I'll swing by your place, and vice versa. Okay. Send the
Perfect.
UFO.
I love it.
Let's go for a ride. I do want to know your feelings about the work that you're doing. I'd just like for you to tell folks about what you're offering with your new service and everything. So just tell us about the work that you're doing now beyond for us other mammals out here, for the more human mammals among us.
So, well, I think my main passion right now, I mean, I had my son is a Andromedan Starseed, and he never wanted to be here. He knew he was different from the moment he was born. He cried. So my raising a Starseed, from keeping him from taking his own life for years and years and years, and awakening to my own awareness, helped me hold the light for him long enough that I know that not every, like, I don't think that prolonged states of depression, anxiety, like a lot of these children that are just suffering with what they're being suffocated by all the information that's coming in that doesn't hold truth. And when you have a starseed, or kind of a new soul from a higher dimension that came here to help, and they forget who they are, and then they're submerged into this density and duality and polarity, there's so many suffering, and there's so many starseeds being born and are growing up. And so my focus right now is really helping teens like my son, which I do complementary, because if I can reach a child when all other traditional medical therapy, kind of Eastern stuff, when that has failed your child or yourself, and maybe it doesn't have to do with the brain. Like, my son was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, OCD, possibly bipolar disorder, yet no medications ever helped him. Went to every medical person that there was, and they just didn't connect, because the problem wasn't in his mind. It was in his auric field. It was in his vibration. This is too heavy here. And so in that evoked, he was able to, in not knowing how to protect himself, the collective density, and everything around him was penetrating and going into his field and creating these emotions that weren't necessarily his to begin with. They weren't organic to him. And so I see stars, I can see when there's a starseed, because being a mother of one and saving their life and helping them manifest the life of their dreams, which Blake is now doing. It's quite a journey. And when I see these suffering children and these parents who have tried absolutely everything, I'm willing to say, listen, if you want to try another approach, then let me work on the energy body. Let's reach them through the heart. Let's turn our lights on so that we can pull other people into activation. We can help them see their own light. Like, that to me is, if I could save 1 million or even just one child like my son from taking their own life or going down a path of addiction they can't get out of. A lot of addicts are those that just feel everything, they don't want to feel it, so they numb it out. And my dad is a perfect example. He was an angelic, and he just didn't understand that everything around him he was getting in was never his to begin with. So, he was an alcoholic, and, he had such this beautiful light in him. And yet no one ever said, hey, if I can be there to reach those people, the ones that know there's something different about them, like my son would say, I didn't ask to come here. This is not home. It's like he refused to interact with this dimension. The food was poisoned. The information was poisoned. They know that everything that they're hearing from the church, from the school, from all that, there's a corrupted code there. And truth is the only thing that these, sensitive souls, not just starseeds, but sensitive empaths, psychically aware, that they get that something's not right. And yet they're being told, no, this is the right path. You have to go to college. You're not going to be anyone if you don't. And, you have to do this and you have to be someone. And instead, they just know they're here on a higher mission, but nobody's telling them that. Nobody's saying, yeah, you are light and that's beautiful. You are different and that's a gift. And I think one of my gifts is reaching people like that, the ones that just have almost given up or just feel like they need to turn to things to just numb the pain. And yet their light body is in there. And it's like, I just want to help them find it. And it took a long time of holding the light for my son until he found his own and helping him. But I eventually, with these, I had to tell him who he was. And then when I did, with the help of a shaman, when I did, and I told him, I love you for everything that you are, everything that you aren't, and that all of the stuff that you've been through, it has never been anything more than you trying to struggle in a place that doesn't feel like home, that doesn't feel resonant to your beautiful blueprint. And so yes, I will also teach people how to do energy healing on their pets. Animal connection. I do have oracle guidance. I'd like to be a mentor for those that are, either empathic, starseeds, whatever, psychically know something's different. Like, I just got it, they know something's there, but they don't really know how to articulate it or where to go. Like, they'll find me. I'm just in service to the light. And so as a light worker, I just keep trying to manifest those that maybe I could just help them turn their light on. I just want to manifest helping those people. So teens are my main focus, like the young coming into this world as something otherworldly and having a hard time. They have dharma, they have like a mission, and that sense of mission won't be ignored, but yet there's nothing that resonates with them around what's being offered in this dimensional situation at this point. So yeah. And also, helping people choose crystal, doing crystal grids, like bringing crystals into activation for your animals. Animals are very sensitive to crystals. I love doing crystal work with animals. So a lot of that, but I mean, it's only been 2.5 weeks. I had 2 people sign up so far, but I'm out there to let people know that, like, if you have a child and you just feel like nothing has worked, let me talk to them. maybe, or maybe not. Maybe I can reach them in a place where I was able to reach my son. I feel like I was put through that process, that traumatic process of raising him and trying to help him see his own beauty, that I was schooled to be someone who could then help others. Like, it's like, and I wrote a story about my son. I helped him manifest. He's in Montana as a fly fishing guide. Nature was the only way he could find peace. He couldn't, he didn't go to college. But a year before this, I wrote him a story, and in it, I wrote his highest timeline. And I showed it to him, and at the time, it meant nothing to him. But that story and the depth of it and what it meant, and it was basically the road home, which was about him going to Montana and living in nature before we even knew he was going to be a guide, before we knew anything. And if you love someone enough and you connect with them, and they don't have the ability to manifest their highest timeline, I think Blake's proof that you can actually help them. That story that I wrote, it all came true. It all came true. I just reread it and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like I said, I don't need anything more for me, but help me manifest this for my son. And that's what he's doing. And it was like all the stars aligned. He got this position in this, huge, this lodge that like is on the Bighorn River. Shout out to Bighorn Angler, because they took on my son, and man, what a difference it has made for him. Yeah. So all the stars aligned. So don't lose hope. I guess that's it. There's always hope.
Tanya, all the ways to find you are going to be located down in the show notes. You have an open invite any damn time you want to come back, and I can't thank you enough. This has been incredible. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me.